guys, if you are watching this video, you probably bought a kit from Whiskey Rose Wood Co. To do your DIY sign at home. So I am Jess, I am the owner of Whiskey Rose Wood Co. and I am going to walk you guys through all of the steps that you need to know to do your sign at home. So for starters, I'm going to talk about what you're going to need. So a credit card will do. A little piece of sandpaper, this will come in your kit. A pin for peeling up your stencil after you're done painting it. Plate for your paint. A microfiber fleece cloth, and a couple paintbrushes. Okay, so let's get going. So first we're going to sand our board down. So if you give your board a feel, it's got a little bit of a rough feeling. So I like to sand long side down. You will notice that there's going to be a couple streaks with the darker colored boards. That's fine. We're going to wipe that down, and then when we lift the stencil up, afterwards that's going to come out. So don't worry about it. But just a light sand. I like to go in a straight line because if you go like this, the lines can end up showing. Okay. Give it a feel. Nice and soft. I'm gonna wipe all that dust off. Okay, so set your board aside. Now you're gonna take your stencil, you're gonna be looking at it like this, reading it. You're going to take your card, and basically what we're doing here is we're just going to make sure that the pre-masking tape is really holding on to your stencil so that when we transfer it, nothing's going to be left behind. So just go over anywhere that there is any detail or words. Oh my gosh, I forgot the most important part. Make sure you grab your drink at the beginning. Cheers. Okay, I digress. All right, so now you want to make sure you flip your stencil over, okay? I'm going to repeat that because a lot of people miss that step. Flip it over. You should be looking at the back of your stencil, the red writing. Okay, and this part's a little bit tricky. We are going to make sure that the stencil stays stuck down and just the backing of the stencil comes up. I'm going to show you what that looks like. You really need to pick at the corner. Okay? You don't want to do that. Okay? That is wrong. You want the sticky part to stay stuck down. And you're just going to go ahead and peel that up. If you do have a spot like that, where the stencil is actually coming up with the backing of the paper, you can just go ahead and catch that, push it down, and keep peeling. Toss that aside. So now we're going to stick this bad boy down onto our board. Now, for those of you that have a dark board, this part is a little bit tricky because all of my stencils are black, so they're not as easy to see as if you have a light colored board. Now, what you're gonna wanna do, set this stuff aside, is set your stencil down just like this. Don't let it touch the actual board. Once it touches the board, it's gonna really start to stick down there. So you are going to, this is gonna be hard to see on camera, but you are going to want to try and look, how much room do I have from the top of my stencil to the top of my board, bottom to bottom, side to side. I like to score it with my nail to get an idea of where my border edge is. So I'm just going to make sure this is on straight. And then once you've got it on there, Just starting from the center, work your way out. Take your card, get into all the cracks, make sure she's in there. Don't worry about any bubbles or anything like that, it's fine. Most of you won't have bubbles, but if you do, it's nothing to worry about. Okay, so now we're gonna peel up that transfer tape. So what you're gonna wanna do is, I like to hold my board vertically and either have it pushed into my legs or my stomach, just for some leverage. And what you'll wanna do is start peeling your transfer tape up across the top like this. And you'll wanna peel it flat back, so flat back onto itself. That way, if anything is lifting, you can see it and you can go back in and push it down. So after that, you're just gonna wanna go over it. Make sure it's all down tight, nothing's lifting. All your bubbles are pushed away from your stencil. Okay, now most of you are gonna start thinking, I actually really like where it's at right now, but we're not done, so sorry. Okay, paint. I'm not gonna need a whole lot of paint because we like to work with a dry brush. And then I'm also gonna run through an ombre technique as well for those of you that want to try that out. So I'm gonna go with a cream color. And I'm also gonna do white. And I'm gonna throw a little gold in there at the end, so. Okay, so this is gonna be more than enough paint for my whole board. Okay, so you really don't need a whole lot of paint. Try not to drop the paint. Okay. So, just the tip of your brush. Get it in there. And then I like to have a spot off to the side where I almost dry my brush off. Okay, so this is gonna be one technique if you're not looking to do an ombre. So you want your brush to have a dry feeling. It's gonna be like a dusting of paint. You're gonna do, if you like a more rustic look, you can go with one coat. If you want it to be more solid, 2 or 3 coats, depending on the consistency of the color that you're using. So like normally a red, you would want to do 3 coats. But yeah. So that's how you're gonna do that. Okay, so for those of you who want to go with more of an ombre technique, I like to just use one brush and I go back and forth between my paint colors. So I'm gonna come down with more of a beige and I'm gonna come up with more of a white. And for this technique, because we're using more paint on our brush, you're gonna wanna go in a tapping technique. Yeah. Okay. So do the tops first. Okay, so for the ombre technique, doesn't matter if you're going from one color to another, or if you're gonna do like what I did, where I kind of went an ombre on both lines. So just with one brush, you will want to kind of go back and forth with your paint colors. So I like to do half and half, and then we're going to have like almost a solid line going through where we want our blending point to be. And then you can just start with your one color, kind of mix the two together on your plate. If you find you've got too much of one color, just kind of play around with it like that. Where it'll make a nice fade. And don't be discouraged, it's not gonna look great on your stencil. But once you peel it up, it's gonna look way better, so don't be scared. Okay, so my paint is dry, and now I'm going to peel up my stencil. So same as what we did with the transfer paper. Hold it like this. Okay, so for everything that stays stuck down, you're gonna take your little pin, and the way that I find works best for this part is if you bring your pin up to the edge of where the stencil is stuck, and then push down a little bit, and then just put your finger over top, and then those will peel right up. So you can see how the ombre worked out here. So I've got my cream fading into the white. I did this one down here with the gold. Now if you wanted to give it more of a rustic feel, you could always take some sandpaper and distress it a little bit. You'll want to make sure that the paint is completely dry before you do something like that, just so you don't move the paint around. And then lastly, the thing that you will receive in your kit, I'm going to get one of these so it makes it really easy for hanging. And I just like to eyeball it. Just gets hammered in just like that.